Hey all, today we're going to be talking about the Color BBS 64 version 8.1 alpha for Linux. This is a pre-built system that allows you to run your BBS right straight from your Linux box. It's available for immediate download, and my hopes is that following this video along with everything I've put in the user manual will get you running in no time. Color 64 has a long history, and I remember running it as a sysop back in the late 1980s. It's come a long way since then. A lot of what you see out there today is version 737, version 8.0, and the last update that came out was 8.1, and since then I've modified it pretty heavily for 8.1 alpha. Creates a lot of fixes from the original 8.0 and 8.1 versions and incorporates a lot of those great things that 737 had as well. During this installation, be sure to follow along at color64wiki.itchybutt.org for the online manual. In it, you'll find the tips for the system requirements for the Lieutenant Kernel configuration that we'll be running and installation steps. So as we go to the system specific requirements, you're going to see there's a section here for Lieutenant Kernel hard drive. This does speak to the configuration we will be using. However, it is pre-built, so these actions have already been taken. But do review this material to make sure you understand how the system is working. In addition, we'll go over to our installation section, and we'll be following the pre-configured builds section. This is a pre-configured Lieutenant Kernel for Linux. It will tell you how the system is set up. It tells you the steps that I've already taken, and then what additional steps you need to take. You will need to go ahead and run this vice build script on your Linux computer, and that will build the vice environment. Alright, so we downloaded the package and it's sitting in our documents folder. You're going to find out that it has several folders here. CFX, that's for the high-speed TCP SIR or the high-speed modem operations. The bins file, which sets up your Lieutenant Kernel environment. A config file for your vice program. The masters of the BBS program. Contains all the disk files that comes with the program. Disk images, which holds your disk images for Lieutenant Kernel, and then the TCP SIR modem program to emulate modem operation on your computer. You also see several text files. Main one to really take a note of is the README text file. It will tell you all the different information that you need for the Lieutenant Kernel, as well as how the drives are mapped, support, installation help, and how to set up specific things like if you want email notifications when your BBS is being used. As normal with Linux, this does come with several scripts. You'll see 3 of them here: my BBS TCP SIR, and my BBS Vice. You will need to make these executable before running them. The big one we're going to be doing is this vice build. We want to do that now, so make sure you make that executable. Alright, so we're ready to start running and build our vice build. Now, this script is set up for multiple variations of Linux. So it'll accept your apt, DNF, Zephyr, all the different styles for Linux. Now, the one thing I did notice when I tried to run this in Linux Mint is that the apt command did not have -get, and Mint is very ornery about that. So you do have to go in and modify the script to say apt-get. I just had apt. So we're going to go ahead and run it. It does take sudo, so you need to be able to put in your credentials, and it'll start compiling away. Okay, and we are done. So now we should be able to run vice. So if I type my BBS vice.sh, there it is. This is how it looks for Lieutenant Colonel. A little different than the Commodore 64 original. So a couple things I will point out. To make sure your BBS does proper time, you want to hit F12 and go in your menu. Go down to Machine Settings, Model, and make sure you're set for NTSC. Also make sure you're set for 60 Hertz. Another specific quirk about Linux, at least it did with my Fedora 43, is you want to go down to Video Settings, Host Rendering Settings, and make sure double size and double scan are turned off. That actually made my clock too slow. If you had to change any of that, save your settings by going down Settings Management and Save Current Settings. All right. So we ran the vicebuild.sh, and this is what it would look like in Linux. I'm running two BBSs. This is a snapshot of my Linux box running both my BBSs. And then it shows down here that in order to run it, you just type in my bbs.sh, and that's going to run both your Vice emulator and your modem emulator. So a couple of things about the build. If you were in the manual, you'll see there's installation steps about copying over the files. You don't need to do that. Creating the boot files, that is an important section to read up on. It's already been completed for the Lieutenant Colonel build, but you'll want to know about the different files that are actually in there. Bootmaker already was run on the build. It creates your general program commands, which are these programs right here. Your plus BBS, plus reboot, plus setup, plus editor, and plus shell. Those are the ones that you'll be running with routinely. When you run your plus setup program to define your characteristics of your BBS, it'll create this BBS parms file. You already have one created right at the moment in this build, but you'll want to go in and make sure you modify it and set up, and we'll show you how to do that. So the big one I want to draw your attention to in the installation section is right here prior to running. So this file is going to say, okay, main thing you want to do is go into setup, set up your parameters, your message categories, and your upload download directories. And then you want to make sure to update your sysop account. Right now the sysop account is set for username sysop and password sysop. Obviously you don't want to keep that, so we want to modify that. And then after that, the main thing you'll want to do is go through your various display files for the BBS and start making them in the way you want your BBS to look. Its theme, how it looks to people. So that's what we'll be playing with a lot there. So first things first, we'll go ahead and we'll modify the sysop account. So we type plus BBS, that's going to load up the BBS. Don't have to worry about the date or the time at this moment. Okay, we're going to hit F1, and then we're going to go into password maintenance. And what we're going to do is change sysop password. Now I've already done this once when I was trying to pre-record, so the password's already changed, but we'll go in again. Alright, and then you can see there I changed my name and my password and the details there, but I'll show you how it's done here. Now this takes about 30 to 40 seconds to go through all the records because there are currently 175 records in the build. So even though you're the only user, it's going through 175 records to see if there's any other records that are valid to edit. In this case, only the sysop account was valid to edit. So we're going to go ahead and edit that. And we want user level access 9 still because we're still the sysop. Yep. And we'll change our password to howdy. All the rest you can return through except for probably real name, because that'll say sysop on it. So yeah, you'd say Mike Newkirk for me, or whatever your name is. Probably don't want to put in your phone number or birth date, and then you can see I already put in my email address and location. For your build, it'll say sysop everywhere, and you just have to change it. After you're done with that, you could hit return and go ahead and create your new member list, and that will show you when a user comes on and says, hey, I want to see who the members are in the BBS. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and shut it down for the moment. So we F1 and then F8, and say system shutdown. So a couple of things to talk about. The TCP SIR, you'll want to come in and check this out, and primarily set up what port do you want to run on. So you'll see here we're running on port A502, and then the internal port, which is that -V 25237. You'll want to make sure that matches in your config ini. So if you come over to the config file and go to config ini, and you want to make sure that port number there, 25237, matches. Now, I don't know the whole range of the numbers, but there's probably a large pool of numbers you can use. This one works just fine. Going back to our TCP SIR script, you'll see that our baud rate, identified by that -s, is set for 38400. That is appropriate for this build. It is designed to run at that speed. These other items, answer.txt, connect.txt, noanswer.txt, and busy.txt, those are text files that will print verbiage to a user depending on the condition of the modem. If it's busy, if it actually answers, if it connects, if it doesn't answer. Those are optional files for you to use. I do have 2 of them here in the directory for no answer and busy, and you're free to modify those. You could delete them, you could change them, add whatever you'd like to do. So all these scripts that we're talking about are designed for multiple platforms of Linux. So you should not have to worry about modifying them much, depending on if you run into the same situation I have with Linux Mint, you might have to tweak it, but this has been tested on Ubuntu and Fedora as well, and they run fine. Okay, so we go back to our checklist. We have updated the sysop account. Let's go ahead and go into setup. So for setup in our Vice, we're just going to say plus setup. Okay, and you're going to see we have main parameters, disk assignments, upload, download parameters, time limits, caller purging, message categories, BBS commands, and a partridge in a pear tree. We're going to deal with main parameters, upload, download parameters, and message categories primarily. In the main parameters, mostly everything's set up for you. If you follow along in the document, under the installation section, or right here, it's set up parameters. It's going to go question by question, and it identifies to you what is this question about. Now most of these you won't have to worry about. I'm going to point out some of the ones that I think are important to you. Maximum lines per message really depends on how large you want your messages to be. Now this environment has a lot of space, so you can take a lot of lines in every single message, and you could take a lot of messages. But do your users want that? Do they want to be able to go through such a lengthy message? So that's something you have to consider. 200 is pretty large. So you can back that off if you want limit to 100 lines. The main thing to remember with Commodore, though, is it's 40 characters per line, so that's, if they have a lot they want to talk about, there's not a lot there that you could do. And you'll see a couple lines down here. Maximum number of messages, 230. Now this system can handle it, but I will say that I ran my BBS in this condition for some time, and I ended up backing it down a little bit. I think I'm set at 175 now. New users, when they come on, they're going to have to go through 175 messages if your message board is busy. And so that's a lot to go through. The other thing too is if you shut down your BBS but you don't shut it down properly, it doesn't properly save what they call the message index, which keeps the system sane with all the different messages. So when you restart your BBS, it's going to try to rebuild that message index. And when you have 230 messages in there, it takes a long time. Now luckily with Vice you could go into warp mode. That's great, but I have had a couple instances where the Commodore environment choked and said it was out of memory. Running 175, it's been smooth as silk, so consider that. Now likewise, I have a maximum password number here, 175, not to get confused with what we just talked about. That is 175 users. Now you can have a lot more than that. I've been running 175, that works good. But I will say, with the Commodore 64 Ultimate coming out, we're getting a lot more signups now. A lot of the BBSs are reporting an uptick in user activity. So you can always expand this. You're not locked down once you type this in. So maybe start with 175 and then expand if you need to. The one thing I will point out is users come and go. So a lot of times if you see a user come on and then they just don't log on for months and months and months, you could delete that user and open up that spot. So make sure that you're following along in the user manual for all these different questions so you can identify what you want your system to do with these various questions. System baud rate. Make sure you keep that 38400. You do not need to change that. DDMCI on. It defaults to yes. You'll see in your build if you're following along. It's probably saying yes right there. I recommend no. And that also came from the original 8.0 documentation. This field is within the password field of the user file, and it is a sysop designated field that they can go ahead and type in anything that they want, notes about that user. I think it's limited in characters, very limited. But what this is asking you is if you allow users to use MCI, where they could put in codes and messages and stuff, they could actually print out this field. So if you don't know how it's being used or you haven't decided yet and you might want to change it later on or whatever, just put no there. You won't have to do multiple DIRs per drive for this configuration. Lieutenant Colonel does not need it. You would need this if you're doing like a 1541, 1581, or 1571 for your uploads and downloads. Lieutenant Colonel, not a problem. So just hit no for this. You would want to rerun on errors. This is if your BBS were to ever have a syntax error, out of memory error, something happens and it crashes, that it automatically reboots. Does your modem support DTR? For TCP, sir, the answer is yes, it does. Adjust BPS to connect rate? Yes, you would. So if a user is calling in at 2400 baud or 9600 baud, you want your system to respond accordingly. Run network? No. Now, if you want to be part of this, this is the Color 64 network. There's not a lot of BBSs doing it right now. My BBS is one of, I think, 4 BBSs that are networked together. This was big back in the 90s, and it could probably be big again if we get more people participating. But for now, you don't have to worry about this. If you are interested in networking in the future, please be sure to contact me and we can set something up and work with that. The modem init command, you don't have to change this at all. It's all preset for you. And I think that is it. One thing I will say, the fast garbage collect, I don't think it's needed. Now I have run it with both no and yes, and I have not seen any improvement when I do yes, other than it makes your screen flicker a lot and it's really annoying for the sysop. So I recommend no. So is that correct? Why, yes it is. All right, so now we're going to go to upload download parameters. Your disk assignments are already pre-configured. So we're going to go to 3. This is asking how many directories, including your upload, that you want. So I already have this set to 6 for you guys, but if you want to change this, you can. You can change the number. You can increase it, decrease it. What you will want to do is make sure if you keep it the way it is, you're going to want to go and edit these sections. So you can see I already edited section B, named it my download section 1. C, we could change that, so we'll call that cool funky music. Allow downloads? Why yes we will. Uploads? Nah, they got to upload to the upload directory. Access level? 4 is good. 4 is a normal user access. Device 8? Sure. Now, as I said, all the disk assignments and the locations, remember I said already kind of pre-configured. This is already designed, right? So drive C or category C is already set for this area of the LTK operating system. If you go over to your README text file, it's also in the manual, I believe. I think we covered that, but you'll see right down here that I said, here's your file structure. And you'll see LU1, user 1 through 5, download categories 1 through 5. And then uploads goes to LU1, user 15. So that's why you're seeing that. All right, so we're going to say, sure, that's correct. Now, same kind of feel with message categories, except the public and private messages are all located on one singular area of the LTK drive. You still got categories to play with, but you don't have to worry about where those are being stored. So you'll see here I identified 6 categories. The first one's called category 1. So if you want to change that, you would call it like nukes corner for me. That's how I do it on my BBS. Second category, I'll make that only for normal users, and we'll call it retro shopping. And that's how you do it. You just keep updating these to how you want to do it. Once you're done with that, you can say yes. Again, you can increase your categories for that. BBS commands, you don't have to modify those right now, but you could go in and take a look at those and follow along again in the user manual to understand what you're doing there, but you can identify how a command is called, by what key, and who can do it. So that is customizable with Color64. Number 8, color settings. You can change your color settings for the Color64 environment just to make your system unique. Carrier type, you don't have to worry about. And so from there we can save our parameters, and that creates our BBS parms file for our BBS. You're one step closer and very, very close to having your own BBS ready. Technically at this point, the BBS is ready to run, but we've got to customize our screens first. So let's talk about customizing our screens. Now there's 2 editors you can use. You can use the Color64 editor itself. There's an offline editor as well as an online BBS editor. And then we also have another program called Kaleidoscope, which is included in the program. And that's an excellent screen editor as well. There's some other ones out there, but these 2 have been the easiest for me. If you go down through the manual, you'll see here all the different screens, and it displays what they're about, when they show up to the user, and anything that you need to worry about. Most are general aesthetics, informational type screens. Other ones are critical, like your menu screens. Obviously, a user needs to know what the commands are available to them for their level. Another one is a script type screen, this application. So that's for a new user to come in. It's an actual script driven screen. So you'll definitely want to read up on how to modify those if you want them modified. Another one that I'd point out is the sayings screen. Now, the system is set up to have random sayings, up to 6 of them, and it prints right before the command prompt. And you can see an example I got here. So if you don't have any set up, the system will be fine. It won't burp. Color 64 is really good with if it's trying to look for a file to display and it's not there, it keeps rolling along. So that's not an issue. However, if you want sayings in there, then you'd want sayings 1, sayings 2, sayings 3. That's what that number sign means. Same thing with menus. So menu, I have a number sign there, but you want a menu 1 for user level 1, menu 2 for user level 2, etc., etc. Sysop news is another one you'll want to watch out for because there are specifics on how to build this file. So you would have a date, your verbiage, and then an immediate date again in the verbiage. See if I can go up a little bit closer here. So you can see how it's set up here. Date, verbiage, verbiage, date, verbiage, verbiage. You don't want space between the end of your verbiage and a new date. The system looks for that date to determine how to display the files, so that's something you'll want to watch. Alright, so let's go ahead and check out editing. We're going to start with the system start and system start 2. Now these files are unique in that they need to be in lowercase. That's because as the user's coming in, we don't know if they're Commodore graphics or not. We don't know if they're ANSI or ASCII. So everything's in lowercase. So we'll go into our editor, plus editor. Now all the files are located at the default drive, drive 8. You don't have to worry about any of the commands. So you can say system start. Alright, that is one I just modified actually in the pre-recordings I was doing. Yours will say a little bit different verbiage. What you want to do here is you just type in for new, and that's where you can go ahead and put in what you'd like. Oops, no capitals. Alright, so we'll go ahead and save that. And then we could do file, the command file there, F, and we'll do system start 2. Now this one you shouldn't have to modify. It says please press your delete or backspace key for Commodore graphics check. The user will need to do that. You'll want to let them know that they need to do that. So there's only so much verbiage. You can make it cool or snazzy or however you want to say it, but you can't use graphics and you can't use uppercase. So depending if you want to modify this anyway. Alright, so we did system start and we did system start 2. Now we're going to take a look at banner. Now this is displayed after graphics detection. So banner is for your Commodore PETSCII terminals. So they've hit their delete key and we've identified, yes, they are a Commodore. So we're going to take a look at banner. And there you can see I have it listed as Commodore graphics enabled. So you can have more to that if you want. My BBS, it does have a big graphics screen that comes up. It's all hunky-dory. And let's see what I did for a banner, if I even have one. I don't think I have one for the pre-build. Ah, I do. Okay. And so one of the things is it says Commodore graphics enabled. I should have said ANSI, but it will kind of come out like this. ANSI, if you look in the manual documentation, I show some comparisons of what Pesky looks like compared to ANSI, and they're close. Not great, but they're close. All right. And then Welcome 1 is the first big screen that shows. Now this is before the user enters their credentials. So what have we done so far? We've said, hi, we see your call, we're answering it, press the delete key. Great, you're a Commodore. Now this would come up right before your login prompt. So this would be whatever you want to display just prior to them having to say who they are. Are they a new user or are they existing user? All right, let's see what I got for that one. Welcome 1. All right, so I put in welcome to my really cool BBS. This is another one I actually modified before taping this session. So yours will be a little bit different. But this would print right before it'd say enter your user ID. All right, so the next one, right after they had a successful login, welcome to would be printed. You can see here I had an example. It said login complete, welcome. Didn't mean to do that. Then it'll go on to print the logon stats, and this just shows some statistics about the BBS and about them. And then it'll print if the sysop is in or out, if these files exist. And then any specific message about their level. So if it was like sysop, it'll say, may the force be with you, sysop level 9 granted access. I can give you an idea of what this looks like by dialing into my BBS. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so for this, I'm going to be using the BBS terminal. So we'll load that up with F2. And looks like I've got a good modem. So I'll dial my BBS. All right, so this is System Start 1 screen. And you can see it's all coming up in caps, even though we put in lowercase. That's why you want it in lowercase. I hit the delete key, and it goes ahead and it shows that welcome 1. All right, now your login will be a little bit different. Ooh, this comes up funky on this terminal. Doesn't do that with sync term. Okay, so this is that login information screen that I talked about. Then it goes and it shows that the sysop's in or out and your level message. And then it'll also show, oh, that's your welcome to screen. That's my itchy butt. Well, not mine. I could say it's my wife's. This is the sysop in or out? That's one I developed. Yours would be different. It'd just probably say sysop's out. That's your level screen, and then the mail screen. And then this is a user profile splash screen. So in 8.1 alpha, I did make it where users can create their own user splash screen. It will show when they log on. It will also show to other users when they go to email them directly. So it'll come up like that. Guestbook is your wall. So this does have a wall on it. I don't think there's any, well, this is itchy butt, so I should have entries on this, and I do. Great. Okay, And then I talked about the menu files. Now I'm level 9, so this is a level 9 menu file. And then another screen you'd see is like our log off screen. That would be the log off screen. So definitely go through and make sure that you cover all these different areas that you want to change. At least look at each screen, and if it fits what you want for right then there, that's great. Leave it alone. If it needs some sort of modification, do it. Won't take too long, and then you can further build upon it as you start getting used to the BBS and understanding how you want it to feel. There are some other notable screens that I mentioned. You have a DOS help screen for the DOS wedge. That's internal to the BBS as well as external in the editor area of the BBS. Message menu. This one only comes up every once in a while. It's mainly in the email section. You probably won't have to modify that. WFC, that's your wait for call screen. I would not recommend that you modify this too much. You could do it a little bit. Just be careful with it because it'll really mess up your day if you screw it up. And then you have these mod edit menus, the mod sub menu and the mod edit menu. These are unused right now in 8.1 alpha, but they are there. This module, I went ahead and I made it dormant. It was for games originally, and I rewrote a section to do the games section of the BBS, but you could always bring back the old school how it was done in Color 64 if you want. Down here in the manual, you'll see I talk about some of the provisions for ASCII, some of the limitations. I also talk about how, the looks compared to ANSI versus PETSCI, so be sure to read through some of those. Okay, so we talked about the setup area. We modified our sysop account. And then we did the customized sequential files as needed. The only other thing we didn't hit on is if you want email notification. Follow these to the T if you want to implement that in your system. I would say hold off if you're just starting, and then jump into it later as you want. The main thing is you'll want to go into the notify file. Where is it? Right there, notify PY. You want to modify that for username, password, and the IP address of your PC. Since you're running this in a virtual machine, it can be done. I've done it, but yeah, you want to make sure you have this set up properly so your Vice computer can talk to your actual virtual machine or your PC, whatever you're running, and be able to log in and then do that email credentials. And then one final note, the last area, games area, now the BBS does come pre-configured with a couple of games. If you want to modify those games, remove some or add some, you'll want to modify the games menu that's displayed to the user, and then you'll want to go into this module, BBS Games, and at the line areas starting at 36,200, you'll want to change your command handling for that. Okay, and with that, your BBS is essentially ready to go. So what we would do is you could go ahead and go to my bbs.sh. Now there's a couple things you're going to see when you do this. It's going to launch Vice and it's going to launch TCP/Sir if you're in the right area. So let's go ahead and get back in the right area. Documents, CD, color, there we go. All right, now let's try it again. All right, so you'll see this is my Vice program running, and this is my TCP/Sir. Now, the one thing you want to make sure happens is when you load your BBS, you're going to want to see your DTR line go high in TCP/Sir. That'll tell you everything is working, and there it is right there. That's telling me that Vice is talking to TCP/Sir and vice versa. The other thing you'll want to see is once this initializes, you're going to want to see the init string of the modem go across, and you're going to want to see the modem answer. So all right, so we should see it right here. There it goes, and there's an OK. All right, so our modem's answered up to the Vice computer saying, yep, I heard you, I'm ready to go. This BBS is now operational. If it got a call in right now on the right port, it will answer it. Pretty cool, right? You can already log in. We'll go in local mode. Now fast logon is another feature I put in there. They could say yes, if they do a fast login, it automatically logs into sysop account number 2. This is only for the local user, or you can abort out. That was always a pain. It didn't have that before, so I like having the ability to abort out. We're going to do a normal login. Oh gosh, what was my password? I don't remember the password. Oh, was it howdy? It was. Sweet. Gosh, I'm getting old. All right, so that's the information screen we talked about. That's the, was that the welcome to screen, I believe it was. And then it gives you your level screen, and then the mailbox, that's your no mail file right there. So you can change how that, prints out. I try to make it so it's a lot more customizable. Okay. There's your sysop access menu. So here's a cool feature. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to change my user level temporarily. We'll go to user level 4. All right, so now if I look at the menu, there's my level 4 menu. All right, so the other thing we talked about was kaleidoscope. So we're going to load Vice back up. Kaleidoscope's a really cool editor program, and recently done by good friend Bryce Tomlinson. He just this has been around a while, but he just recently put out an update. Great program for modifying these screens. All right, so we're going to load. It's going to be disk, and let's do menu 4. Okay, so now you go into edit. Now it always shows in uppercase. You use your Control Shift, and there it is in lowercase. So this is how you can modify something, and once you modify all that you want to modify. Now the cool thing about this program that I will say that the online editor cannot do is that I can take things and move them around. I could actually take a block here and move it down, move this block up. I can change things around. It also does rainbow colors for you. It does a lot of neat functions that you would expect an editor can do. So these are some of the functions available to us. So let's say we want to modify sysop bin. Go to edit. Alright, so we're going to, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Alright, so we can store that. And then we save. So that's essentially it. One thing to note is that the help files are already there. There are no text files. If you want to create some, great. Figure out how you want to use those. In the help files, you can go in, you can edit those, and decide if there's anything in there you want to change. Did mention in the sysop DOS utility there is an online editor there. That's by the exclamation point at the DOS wedge. You could also type question mark and it will remind you of what you can use. So you can see their message editor. So if we were going to look at our sysop bin, sorry, phone call. There we go. We are good to go. So with that, I want to make sure that you guys know that under Itchy Butt, we have a Color64 support forum here, and this is where I'm located at. I do encourage you, if you're looking at doing this, to sign up here. And I am always here to help in the installation if need be. And we also have tons of history in here for any of the questions you might have. I also put all the latest news. If there's a critical fix that I'm putting out or anything like that, it's all located here. So definitely jump over to this area, sign up, and let me know that you're there and say hi. So with that, I hope you enjoyed going through this, and I hope it was painless for you. It's really a rewarding experience. I've been a sysop again for the last 5 years, and I absolutely love it. It's just fantastic. So, if you guys have any questions, be sure to reach out and give me a shout out. All right, thanks, y'all.